Welcome back to Crescent City Crime, dear listeners. I'm Tracie.
And I'm Brian.
And, well, we did not mean to be gone for this long, but life happened. Life got in the way of our favorite hobby.
Yes, it did.
After weeks of a drought, kind of all over, but in our particular place where we live, we had a drought for about 2 months, right? Like, it didn't really rain at all. Then one day, the rain came all at once.
Yes, a very heavy rain that, and combined with wind, also that accompanied the heavy rain, there were blue roofs from Hurricane Ida that finally, showed their showed their age and were torn off of roofs, including ours. And we had a leak in the bathroom where his water came in through the fan in the bathroom. Yeah. And it wasn't a severe leak, but we knew it was the beginning of severe trouble.
And we had already known that we needed a roof, but we just needed a roof right then. The next day we had a roof put on. Now we are paying for the roof. We've both been working a lot, raising the money to make the payments, which are almost finished though.
Yes, and I'll say this, when you work a lot of DoorDash deliveries, it's you spend enough long hours doing it, it begins to feel kind of like some tough movie production work, 12, 16-hour type of days. It starts to feel like that.
Yes, but unfortunately, because of all of that, my plan for our September episodes just completely, got shoved aside. So I'm going to be tabling those episodes until next year. So I thought that today, for a few minutes, we would just kind of chat, maybe riff on the mic a little bit. What do you say, Brian?
Sure.
Yes. We are almost into spooky season. It's kind of started. It's already fall. I'm happy it's fall. And next month we will have a full slate of episodes. Don't you worry.
Yes, as fall is most welcome. These 104 to 111 heat index days.
Those were terrible.
Yeah, they were very scary. As the entire state of Louisiana, we had double the number of heat-related deaths versus last year.
Yeah, and it doesn't really even take a lot. Like, you might think you have a little bit of time, and generally you do. But not on those particular days.
No, I don't know if I talked about it in the program before, but I did have a scare a couple of months ago where I was starting to feel, I could tell I was about to feel kind of dizzy.
That's the first sign.
I was feeling dry, and I told myself to do something. I was stuck in traffic, and what I did was I drank half of a plastic bottle of water, and I poured the other half over my head while driving the car, which I've never done before.
And the AC was on, right?
The AC was on. It didn't matter. That's just how hot it was.
And also, you were not doing strenuous activity. You were just delivering DoorDash.
I was delivering DoorDash, yeah. And I was getting in and out of the vehicle
in a hot parking lot
during the hottest time of the day. This was between 3 to 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
In the afternoon, and it really snuck up on me. So after, once I got out of traffic, I cut things a bit short, went home, and then also for the first time put my head under the kitchen faucet for about 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I was at work, and I remember I was getting off work, and you were still at home, and as you were coming to get me, I was on the phone with you, and you were telling me what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, the teachable moment here is, even if you think that you are facing heat exhaustion, even if you just think it, okay, yeah, drink water, find shelter, pour water over the back of your head.
Yeah,
okay?
the back.
As soon as you can, because you're much better off hydrating and getting wet just to make sure than going through the alternative, which could end up deadly.
Yes, and I will say this: I bought one of those cooling head wraps. Like where you dampen it and it stays damp, and as it evaporates, it cools you. And I have a cooling towel, works the same way. I'm sure that I'm sure that you, dear listeners, I'm sure that you've heard of these miraculous things. But I will say that the head wrap, it really helped me out, even though the water evaporated out of it pretty fast some days. I would have to redampen it.
Yeah, they're very useful.
They're very useful. So, I know that you don't generally pay attention, Brian. I know that you don't pay attention generally to, YouTube stars and whatnot, like how I do. I like to watch gossip channels about other YouTubers, that kind of thing. And, the algorithm, which you kind of live and die by on YouTube, the algorithm does recommend me some pretty good things based off of what I watch, because of course I'm interested in these things. So I came across a channel that had a 3-hour video on a person that I can only describe as a disturbing individual, and the person who I'm talking about is Colleen Ballinger, wherein to my understanding, she's a Generation Z star. Kids will go to her comedy shows and she'll have them up on stage, and she has a lot of YouTube videos where she sings, and I had never really heard of her until this video, and I was like, oh, who's this? And then I realized that this person is in fact terrible. She's done things that are harmful to minors. That is just so strange. I felt like if we were to see a guy doing these things to a young girl, we would say, "Oh no, you have to stop that." But because it was a woman, maybe it just didn't feel as threatening. But when I was watching the clips that were put together in this video, I was horrified. So I just want to kind of just share that remember that just because it's a woman does not mean that they're not dangerous in some way, shape, or form.
Yes, I fall into the trap of underestimating women quite a bit, and that's because there were a lot of women in my household. You see, and so it's because of that I don't feel intimidated by women. Although I need to be a bit more careful. Personally, I understand this that women can be very tricky.
And so can men.
Yes.
That is true. Nobody's disputing that. I'm just saying that it can come from any side, right? It can come from any side. It can come from a man, from a woman, from a gender neutral person, whoever. But yeah, and then this comes on in the last couple of weeks, where a family vlogger is facing charges of child abuse. She and her husband have 6 children. This woman is named, it's either Ruby Frank or Ruby Frankie. I'm not really sure, because I just read things. I didn't actually watch things. So I'm not even sure how her last name is pronounced, but the point is she's an asshole. She's working with somebody who's some sort of therapist who just likes to lie and misdiagnose people. She's diagnosing almost every guy she meets with sex addiction.
Oh, okay. She's a snake oil salesperson.
Yeah, pretty much. Yes.
Like in the days of the Wild West, where they'll peddle some type of elixir that is actually some type of alcohol concoction.
Right.
And they will fake. They will do these. They will have someone planted in the crowd, to act as their endorsement, to have their ailment cured by this miracle elixir, and they sell a bunch of this liquid whatever to a bunch of people in the town, and then they leave the town, and they secretly leave town, and then by the time people have figured out that they've been had, then they're gone, moving on to the next town, do it all over again.
And that's just like the therapist that's working with this woman. This woman herself, though, is pretty awful. You have to keep in mind, she and her husband, they have 6 children. And they pretty much documented everything, put it on her YouTube channel from the time that these children were just babies. So these children have grown up, on the YouTube channel. They've made their parents millions of dollars. And then there were things that were pointed out, like after this woman actually got charged, there were things that were pointed out in the YouTube clips where, like, one of the things was that one of her daughter's children, one of her daughter's teachers called her up and said, "Hey, your daughter does not have a lunch." The mother said, well, she didn't pack her own lunch, and she's responsible for that. The child is 6.
Good God.
The child is 6.
Packing your own lunch at 6 years old? That was the furthest thing from my mind in the morning I was 6 years old.
Oh, and it gets even worse. She refused to bring her child a lunch. And then she also said, after she hung up with the phone with the teacher, because this whole phone call was on her YouTube channel. She said after she hung up with the teacher, "I hope nobody gives my daughter any food."
Oh, wow.
And then there was also something where her son said that she took away his bed for, I think, a period of like a year or something, several months, and made him sleep on a beanbag chair in his bedroom.
That's not supposed to be what tough love is.
No, and I forgot what the, quote, offense was all about. It's probably something very minor that certainly did not deserve, having your bed taken away from you.
What strikes me as so bizarre here is that this is cruelty in a very unconstructive way, okay? Now, let me give you an example of something that some people might find cruel, and as a 7-year-old, I found this to be, I thought this was cruel, but no, it was actually quite constructive, like summertime, and tilling soil for my grandfather with a shovel at 7 years old for his garden, which was a very arduous task. I didn't like it at all, but I did it. But it was constructive in that it built character and it had a purpose to it.
Oh, yeah, it's like when my mother would make me go volunteer when I was young and, ate into a lot of my summer vacations and whatnot. But, yeah, it built character.
Exactly. Doing, completing arduous tasks at a young age, it prepared someone like myself for service in the United States Marine Corps. Mm-hmm. Get this done, no excuses. Regardless of how difficult this task is, you're going to get it done. Okay, you have to bring that. A Marine Corps recruit has to bring that with him or her into boot camp. Okay, it's not taught in boot camp, and drill instructors are not going to instill the character in you that is developed at a young age. They're not miracle workers.
It just builds upon it.
Right. You come in. You hopefully come in strong and ready to commit to the most difficult tasks under great adversity, which of course is an environment that drill instructors create for you to make sure that you can function under duress. Okay, which is very, very necessary for United States Marines, of course. So it's not something that they're going to make you better at what you already are. They're not there to turn you into something that you're not already. So Yes, they're going to teach you some things. They're going to make you better at who you are, what you are, but they're not going to magically transform you into this awesome war machine if you don't already have the attributes and the prerequisites necessary for it.
Well, thank you for filling in while I had to go tell the dog to quiet down. Okay, yeah, okay, well, that's what that did for you, but I mean, like, for me, I think what it did was it showed me how to have a sense of commitment to something.
Yes, yes. Speaking at length, we would eventually arrive there as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sense of commitment. But, but these are safe, healthy ways for children to learn something. This is not, you're 6 years old, you didn't pack your lunch, you have to starve.
Yeah, you see, I mean, that's unnecessarily cruel, and here I can compare that also to what a Marine Corps recruit goes through in boot camp, okay? Now, way back when
They make sure you're fed.
They do make sure you're fed, and they're constantly making sure you have water and that you're drinking water, including the consumption of an entire canteen of water before you hit the rack at night, okay? It's going to have you up in the middle of the night to go...
relieve yourself?
To go relieve yourself, but you're going to be hydrated, you see. So, that what they got rid of, which was used in the Marine Corps during the Vietnam War, and before that, it was called water discipline, where they would try to get Marine Corps recruits accustomed to operating without water for extended periods of time to make sure that you're ready for it if you don't end up with water. And what ended up happening was recruits ended up collapsing.
Because you need water.
Right. And dying from heat exhaustion because of a lack of water. So the Marine Corps abandoned this practice because the goal of Marine Corps boot camp has never been to kill the recruits. No.
Right.
No. It's not. That's, this isn't like some megalomaniacs evil training camp. Okay, this isn't Darth Vader's boot camp. You have failed me for the last time. Force choking recruits. No, none of the U.S. military is about that, training recruits.
No. But speaking of Star Wars, we are enjoying Ahsoka very, very much. I think is the next episode the final episode?
Yeah, episode 8 is the final episode. Please remember, no spoiler talk here.
Oh, absolutely not. No spoilers. I just want to say that we were enjoying it. But also, I've been very much into the theme music. Theme music's really awesome.
Yes, Kevin Kinnear, who scored Clone Wars, and he scored Rebels, and he's also done some work on the Star Trek franchise. I know he did work on the score for some episodes of Star Trek Enterprise, including Into the Mirror Darkly. Okay.
Oh yeah.
So Kevin Kinnear has really outdid himself with this score. The Ahsoka series features the very best rendition of Ahsoka's theme music ever. Okay, and of course, Ahsoka's theme music started during Clone Wars and evolved more during Rebels, and there was a variation of her. Kevin Kinnear. I think it was Kevin Kinnear that did a variation of her theme for the season 2 of the Mandalorian episode with Ahsoka in it. I could be mistaken, though. I haven't looked that up recently.
Yeah. So okay. Here's a bonus question, Brian. Bonus question.
A boneless question.
Okay, it's a bonus.
That means
question.
It's not going to be as juicy as your wings with a bone in them.
It might be. Just listen to my question. Okay. So, Star Trek. Okay, because you brought up Star Trek, so you made me think of this. The mirror episodes, which I think if you're a Trek fan, you just enjoy those, especially if it's Deep Space Nine mirror episodes. So I realized that we never saw a mirror version of Gul Dukat. What do you think Gul Dukat's mirror version would be like?
Okay. It might be Gul Dukat's mirror version. I think would likely be as many of these mirror characters are the polar opposites.
Exactly.
Really are. Okay. I think he would be very close to the way he acts around his daughter when his daughter was alive.
Ah, okay.
It would, what good there was in Dukat, you would probably have in spades in a mirror version. I think a mirror version of Dukat may still be manipulative, but fighting for Cardassia.
Okay.
Very likely fighting against the
Breen and the Jem'Hadar.
Yeah, and the Terrans
and the Dominion.
Yeah. And his worst side probably wouldn't emerge.
Maybe not,
the mirror version.
But he had a pretty big bad side. He had a really big bad side.
Yes, he certainly did.
I forgot.
Classic sociopathic.
Charming,
charismatic, cultive personality, dictatorial side.
Like that episode where he and Cisco are trapped in I think it's a cave or something, and Dukat is hallucinating, he's hallucinating Kira and I think some other people too, and then towards the end of it, he's saying, yeah, I really hate the Bajorans with their earrings and their wrinkled noses, and I should have turned Bajor into a graveyard that the galaxy had never seen before. Do you remember that episode?
Yes, because you see, during the occupation, he was strangely enough trying to be loved by the Bajorans in an effort to manipulate them, turn himself and become a cultive personality.
Right.
With them to make him his people, to use as he desired, because he seemed to have this need to be admired and loved by people.
Yeah.
And during the occupation, certain atrocities he would commit, and his mind would be punishment for defying him, for helping them.
Yes, helping them. Yes, yeah. And then there was do you remember the episode where Kira, I think she looks into the time orb on Bajor and sees how her mother pretty much became Gul Dukat's girlfriend, and
a kept
woman, a comfort woman,
kept woman,
something
kept
like that,
woman,
yeah. But
and ironically, that was why her and the rest of her family survived the occupation.
That is
because
why.
They were taken care of, ironically, by Gul Dukat.
Mm-hmm.
Because her mother was making this sacrifice.
Right. Yeah, and then that was what the episode was about, was that Kira had to fully understand all of that. And then
she had to unpack this tragic irony.
Yeah. That
she, in a way, owed her life to Gul Dukat.
Which is such, if you have watched Deep Space Nine, dear listener, then you know what I mean when I say that for Kira, that was probably just abhorrence, because that's really not what she knew. That's not who she was. She made bombs to fight against the Cardassians, to rid Bajor of them.
Yeah, he was her greatest enemy.
Yes, he was.
Yet she had no idea that he helped her to survive as a child during the occupation.
But if you've not seen Deep Space Nine, then we just spoiled a whole lot of things for you. But you should still go watch it anyway.
Yes, because there's tremendous
so
amount that we did not spoil for Deep Space Nine. But this is a TV series from the 90s.
Yeah, it's quite old. So, but even so, I do recommend it. It's a very good series.
It's the best of the Star Trek shows, and yes, it owes a lot to the original series and Star Trek The Next Generation, which is what it was built off of.
That's very true.
Yeah.
Very true.
And so it is quite fitting that it surpassed the original series and The Next Generation in the minds of many fans.
Yeah, and I'm not going to say anything because if you've not watched it and if you want to watch it, I will say that one of the best episodes, and I mean like in my heart, right, was the episode that Major Barrett Roddenberry was a guest star on as the Beta Z. What was her name again? Lana Troy?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, she was a guest star in one of those episodes.
Deanna Troy's mother. But she was also in Next Generation in that role, too.
Yes, she was. She was, she was on Next Generation, I believe, more than she was on Deep Space Nine, though, right?
Yeah, I believe it was in Next Generation when she became the voice of the ship's computer.
That's right,
Yeah,
yes.
when she did that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I actually met her once at a convention in Alexandria.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
That's cool.
And what I distinctly remember her saying, and this was sometime after Star Trek V, and she was very gracious with the fans, but she didn't mince words. And she said it loud and proud at one point at her table in the dealer's room where she was doing autographs. Bill will not direct another Star Trek movie. She literally said that at this convention in Alexandria, Louisiana, and those are words that just rung through. She said it was loud and proud with such firm conviction that I can still hear Major Barrett Roddenberry's words in my head saying that.
And of course, when she said Bill, she meant William Shatner, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
The funny thing about William Shatner is, fans call him William Shatner, understandably so. That's his proper name. But people in Hollywood who've worked with William Shatner are going to say Bill Shatner or Bill.
Right.
Like James Doohan at a convention appearance
Who
said Bill Shatner.
Did not like Bill Shatner.
Yeah, although he was rather eloquent about it.
Right.
At convention appearances.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they still had to work together.
He didn't really. He just simply said. He said rather eloquently that he didn't like him, but he didn't air the dirty laundry though. He never got specific about problems they had, which is of course a credit to his character.
That reminds me of something really funny that I read recently, where it said, my dream date is to go to Olive Garden, but the family next to me is having a full-on argument where they are airing out 30 plus years of dirty laundry.
Well, and in my opinion, what makes that tragically comic is that very likely this family having that argument and having this total meltdown probably believes that Olive Garden is a good restaurant.
Well, you know what they say, when you're here, you're family, so I mean...
There you go, okay? And it's like the humor wasn't lost on me when during one of umpteen Godfather marathons, multi-nights, Godfather tonight, Godfather 2 the next night, and then 3 the following night. Olive Garden's actually sponsored one of these, and yes, they had the commercial, when you hear your family.
It also reminds me, do you remember that video clip? I mean, this is going back a ways, but it was a video clip where I think it was a local politician was going to be on a radio show, and he runs into the pastor who was having an affair with his wife, and he tries to fight him, and he just keeps yelling at him, "You bleep my wife, you bleep my wife," just over and over again. And then in the background there's a big "Jesus loves you" banner.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh boy, I'm pretty sure that's not what Jesus would do.
No, Jesus would definitely not bleep your wife.
No, or have a public meltdown.
No.
Over it.
No, instead he'd just throw you down the side of a mountain. Okay, I'm kidding. I'm kidding about that. So, do you have anything to add before we wrap up? It's been about, I think it's been a good conversation. It's been about 30 minutes.
Well, I have a movie recommendation.
Okay, what is it?
Well, 2 movie recommendations. I actually barely squeezed in a viewing of the movie Bottoms.
Oh yes, Bottoms. That was so funny. It was very funny. I really enjoyed how it just threw everything that you would expect in a movie, just completely threw it out and bought in a whole new Lego set to build with.
Yeah, whereas normally it's a couple of geeky guys who are trying to have a crush on a couple of cheerleaders and trying to impress them, and they do something crazy to do it. This time it's a couple of girls who are trying to do the same thing.
Yeah, I thought that and I really enjoyed the humor of it. I thought it was very funny. I thought it was one of the funniest scripts I'd seen in a while, or seen, I guess. It's a funny script. Let's just put it like that. Very funny.
It is, and it's it does involve a high school football game, which explains why at the playground football field, I believe it's Mike Miley Field, next to Federal City on the west bank of the Mississippi, there were casting calls. These were hot casting calls, although fortunately it was like in the middle of the night, like 1, 2 in the morning, with the lights on to do the Friday Night Lights thing. You know, because it's going to be dark with just lights lit up, of course. You know, so you can film this on a Friday night at 2 in the morning. Also, it's better that the temperature is more tolerable, because this is last summer. Fortunately, not this summer. It was filmed. And yes, I was involved in the production of this movie. Full disclosure. And also, the reason why it was done during the summer is we needed high school, high school aged football players, and the best time to get them, as well as we needed high school students for the hallways of the high school. Summertime, schedule more available, easier to schedule, because they're literally not in school. Now, in case anyone's wondering, where can I be seen in this movie? I'm in the final scene, which was quite literally the final scene that was filmed. It was a reshoot.
And you were kind of like the lead person, like the lead extra on the screen. Weren't you like the first one on this, like in that scene?
When fans charge the football field.
Yeah.
I'm seen in a red coach's type of shirt.
A polo shirt.
Yeah, but it's like I got it at Academy Sporting Goods. It's a red, sporty type of coach's shirt. I'm holding a sign and charging the field, and at one point I give someone else a high five and everything. And the reason why, and to keep in mind, this is a dark comedy, the reason why what I'm doing is so funny, I'm not going to give it away, is there's something bizarre taking place on the football field itself. And me and a few other fans are like charging the field, hooray, hooray, waving our signs and everything, high-fiving each other. The cheerleaders are dancing around, waving the pom-poms, all thrilled. And I'm not going to say what's going on while we're doing this, but it's rather dark, and that's what makes what we're doing so funny.
Yes. So go see Bottoms. I don't think it's in theaters anymore, right?
No, it's in... It's in some theaters.
Oh, okay.
It's run at the AMC in AMC theaters in Louisiana is over, but like for example, many of the independent theaters are still running it. Like in the New Orleans area, for example, I believe it's still running at Canal Place and the Broad.
Okay.
Independent theaters where a movie like this. Okay, being an independent film itself. Although Elizabeth Banks, it has a minor role in the movie, and she is one of the producers.
Love Elizabeth Banks.
Yes. It is an independent film, and so naturally the independent theaters, where independent films are very popular, are continuing to run it for now, because it has attracted a pretty decent audience.
And as well it should. It's like one of those kind of scrappy underdog movies. I also really appreciated the whole 90s-ness of it all because, I'm a child of the 90s. So anything that is... so this is basically my time for the nostalgia goggles.
Oh, yes. Yes, and the movie is quite fun and has, some really good social commentary.
Yeah, very smart.
Yeah.
It's a very smart script.
The movie is very, very smartly done. It's funny how the very last scene of the movie was filmed like 2 months after a lightning and a rain delay for when it was really supposed to be filmed. And that was a much smaller casting call, and it wasn't as long as the other day's filming. Because quite simply, we got back together to film the storming of the field. There was a little more audience footage filmed. There was some audience footage that was actually cut from the movie, which is quite unfortunate because Elizabeth Banks was in that footage.
Well, maybe there'll be like some extras or something, but I imagine this movie is going to hit streaming quite soon. I think the Barbie movie, I think you can already buy it digitally.
I think so. As far as the Barbie movie goes, I know that AMC is bringing it back to IMAX.
Oh, they are?
Yeah, I believe that's as of today.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Actually.
I mean, it did incredibly well.
Yeah, deservedly so.
Deservedly so. Speaking of, this is something that I did not catch when I saw the movie. I'm not sure if you caught it either, Brian. But somebody pointed out that John Cena is one of the Barbie mermen.
I think so.
No, he is. Like,
yeah.
I just didn't realize that until somebody said something. The funny thing
was, it's like the Barbie movie is best seen twice because there's a lot of stuff to unpack. And the funny thing is, I kind of forgot that he was in the movie at all.
Yeah.
Now I remember. Oh yes, that was John Cena,
and he asked to be in the movie.
Yeah,
yeah, he asked to be in the movie, and they're like, "Would you like to be a merman?" He was like, "Hell yeah!"
Yeah, because I mean, after all, men should not resent the Barbie movie,
and there is such a thing as mermen. Well, at least in fantasy.
Yeah,
mermen are a thing that have existed in lore for many, many years.
Yes, whereas we're seeing some of the very male stereotypes that are spoofed in the Barbie movie. Some of those kinds of men who tend to end up in toxic relationships where they're the more toxic end of the relationship, since it's a matter of, forcing their will upon a woman instead of having an equal partnership. Naturally, those kinds of men are not liking this movie. Because, one of the messages of this movie is a demand for equality and respect by women.
But also it shows how the patriarchy actually does hurt everybody. It hurts men too.
Yes.
And I think also that kind of the point of Ken is that you can't always define what something is that's not necessarily good for you. Like in this case, the patriarchy. Like it's it's multifaceted. It's not always easy to define. It's elusive. There's a lot of internalized misogyny that goes on because of the patriarchy, etc. But I think possibly my favorite line that he says is that when he found out that the patriarchy was not about horses, he lost interest.
And notice in the movie there are men in that Barbie movie who are also being pushed around by the patriarchy.
Very much so, yeah.
So it's not just women who get pushed around by overbearing patriarchy. There are men who try to be decent men, who just want to be respected and respect others, who get pushed around by overbearing patriarchy.
Or like guys who call themselves alphas. Ooh, I'm such an alpha. Ooh.
Yeah. If you overdo the alpha male thing, you can get pretty toxic.
But also, it's kind of silly because it's not even really something that exists in humans. Like, when they talk about alpha, they really mean pack animals like wolves and dogs. They don't really mean, like, humans were not really pack animals in that way. We can have a pack mentality, as, we've seen in case of, like, violent mobs, right? There's definitely a thing that does happen. But overall, like, in our structure of society, that's not really what it is.
Yeah. Although it does stem from feeling threatened and fearful and joining together with a larger group because of that fear.
That's very true.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just remember that, once again, it hurts everybody. And this is why I always tell people to just be kind. And I'm not going to get into this because this would be violating somebody's privacy. But somebody that I don't work with, but like they work in the business next to where I work. First day I met this person, and they told me something incredibly deeply personal. And really, it was just because I showed a little bit of compassion towards them. Because I asked if they were doing okay. Because they seemed, kind of down. And they just came out with the whole story. And I was like, oh, wow. So, just saying, be kind. Because you never know what somebody might be going through at that exact moment.
Yes, quite true. It's not going to hurt you to show empathy and kindness.
Yeah, and this extends to a lot of ways, including... Dear Lord, people, if you are behind the wheel of a vehicle, please pay attention. I read something rather terrifying. This is a local story where somebody was riding their bike and they got hit by a car. And this was during a heavy traffic time. The person, a woman who was driving, could have run over him. But she didn't. She actually stopped to help. But the car behind her was honking and cursing them out. Because, like, oh yes, how dare this person get hit by a car while riding his bike, and how dare this woman not want to run over him? Terrible.
Yes, and that's a problem that has gotten especially worse after the lockdown. People bullying people on the highway, forcing their will on other people as they're driving, following too closely. Louisiana especially has seen a drastic uptick in vehicle wrecks. I call them wrecks, okay, because I don't think most wrecks are accidents. I think these so-called accidents are mostly the byproduct of a conscious decision that reckless drivers have made to drive aggressively and as fast as they can. And, most of the time it's all right and people get out of my way, and I can drive fast and just cut through traffic and weave through traffic quickly, and everything goes just fine. Well, until it doesn't. And eventually it doesn't. And driving, doing DoorDash deliveries, okay, which is typical, of course, people who work in movie production, as you're not going to be working in movie production every day, and especially not during the strike, which is just about over, fortunately. You're going to do things like DoorDash, Uber Eats, that rideshare stuff. And I see numerous examples of people who were driving in 30-mile-an-hour zones and 35-mile-an-hour zones way too fast, and see these vehicles wrecked badly. One instance, it was a driver who blows a stop sign next to the Costco in Mid-City.
Oh, yeah.
And an extended cab truck broadsides this vehicle. And the person in the extended cab truck was driving so fast that the driver of the sedan who blew the stop sign was killed in the wreck.
Yeah.
So that's an example of two aggressive drivers
Yes.
meeting at the same time. Now, granted, the driver of the sedan should not have blown the stop sign. The driver of the sedan on that 30-mile-an-hour zone shouldn't have been killed either. The driver of the extended cab truck was driving way too fast. He didn't even have enough time to stop. And unfortunately have to give the right of way to someone blowing a stop sign. I've had to do that. I wish I had $1 every time I have slowed down for someone who decided to blow a stop sign.
Or a red light.
Or a red light. Okay? It's called defensive driving. So that's the thing. If you something to keep in mind, as a side note, advice for drivers, okay? Just about all of us drive, just about. Don't drive your vehicle any faster than you can react to traffic. Okay? The faster you drive, the less reaction time you're going to have. That is basic physics.
Yeah, and speaking of which, I also heard the other day about somebody who used to be work adjacent to me died because he was going the wrong way against traffic and he was drunk.
That's right. That was the bartender who got fired from next door.
Right, and that's all I want to say. I'm not giving him... but yeah, that's what happened. He did get fired because he made... I'm just going to say he made racial comments. He also made comments of a sexual nature about the boss. So that's why he got fired. And this was several months ago, I think.
He's also a drug abuser, too.
No, different guy. Different one.
I'm sorry. I'm getting it mixed up.
Yeah,
although, in the French Quarter, drug abuse of bartenders is quite common.
Yeah, unfortunately, that is true. If you are a bartender in New Orleans and you can manage to avoid substance abuse issues and you can have some longevity in your career, you will make good money.
Yes, and you just want to try to stay away from spending it on a dependency.
Yeah, but no, this particular guy, I'm trying to think, I think he was fired in like April or May. So this was several months ago that he's been no longer with the company, and he died, I think it was about a week or two ago.
Yeah, as a result of reckless operation.
Of reckless operation.
Which of course, driving against traffic is pretty damn reckless.
Yes. So,
and I've run into people driving against traffic before. And, on the road, because I'm hyper alert, and I essentially, as the old saying goes, I keep my head on a swivel, okay? Whether I'm walking on the street or whether I'm driving a car. And every time I see a driver driving against traffic, I'm able to pull over into a parking lot and just get out of the way, just don't bother, trying to fight this battle, to correct this individual, trying to be the person's dad. The chances are they didn't even listen to their own father or mom, so why should they listen to you? They're not.
And just let them blow past you. Just keep that space cushion in between you and them, so if they have an accident, you can react in time. Yeah,
and there's times when I'll see an aggressive driver tearing through traffic. What I'll do is I'll slow down and hang back a little bit, just in case that aggressive driver causes an accident up ahead, so I'll have extra reaction time. Maybe I might even take a picture of their accident, which I've done a few times, if I was able to.
I mean, the New Orleans Reddit is usually, I mean, at least once a week, there's somebody posts an accident picture or a car flip picture. In fact, the moderator of the New Orleans Reddit board, his handle is Car Flip Judge.
Yeah, it's tragic, and it's sad that in Louisiana and the New Orleans metropolitan area especially, we have tons of vehicular collisions. Tons.
Yeah, tons.
If I do DoorDash driving over a weekend, chances are I'm going to drive past anywhere from 4 to a dozen wrecks sometime that weekend, and that's just the ones I see. That's just the ones I happen to drive past. That's how ridiculous it is. And the part of it that there's two aspects of this that just blows my mind. Okay, one, I see people driving aggressively past these wrecks. It's like, hello, McFly. McFly! It's like, you're not going to learn anything from this? And the other thing that really blows my mind is that I've done rideshare driving and delivery stuff off and on, full-time and part-time, for the last 8 years. And I have 0 citations, and I have 0 accidents.
And I am very thankful for that.
And so, myself, just a humble blue-collar Marine Corps veteran with a brief law enforcement background and, blue-collar movie production guy.
Co-host on a podcast.
Yeah, co-host on a podcast, okay?
Mm-hmm.
If I can drive safely 4 to 12 hours a day doing rideshare stuff, then someone who maybe spends 15 to 20 minutes in their car every day, no more than an hour, should be able to do the same.
Yes. And with that, dear listeners, we are going to finish up for the day. So until then, everybody, be safe, be kind. Drive safely. Don't park next to vans.
If it's dark, it's dangerous, and you don't feel safe, don't be there in the first place. And if this is a traffic situation, slow down and reroute if you can. If you ever being questioned in an official capacity by law enforcement and you are not the victim or the witness to a crime, lawyer up.